mind introducing yourself?
Sure. So maybe I would start with by having you ask me some questions about myself. That's dangerous, right? When children do it, but when adults do it, it's never dangerous, right? Right?
So where have you been and what have you been doing?
Oh, well, so I've been going to some other churches. Trader.
She meant she called you Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's. They have the best ginger beer. Well, they have one of the best ginger beers. It's amazing. But so the question is that I've been invited to go to some other places and just talk to them about some out of the norm, out of the box things. So I don't know why they would think I might be that way or know something about that, but anyway, that's still continuing. And as that continues, some of you are going to be invited to be a part of that as well. So there's two things, though, that I want to portray in any communication that comes from inside out, or that comes from people inquiring about that. What have you been doing? What's going on? And I was talking to Milton a little bit about this, and I want it to be so simple. Because I think what God called us to is this simple.
Yes.
And it is be nice and get out of God's way. Be nice. Can we be nice? Be nice and don't impede God. Join God. If you're with Him and you're walking with Him and you're part of what He's doing, that's not impeding Him. But be with Him. Walk with Him. Be nice. I think it's really quite like that. And what that be nice means has some things that we can talk about. We can have conversations about that. And what it means to walk with God, that is an infinite thing to talk about. Because how do you walk with the infinite one, the one that always has been, always will be, and is right now, lives in you and you live in Him? Check that out. So, I don't know what God is up to. I get glimpses of it. But there's a lot of intrigue. People are seeing something different and they're interested in what that might be. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I promise God that if He asks me to go do something, I'm going to say yes unless He shuts the door and closes that off. So if I get invited to go somewhere, I'm going to go. And it's up to Him to put a talking donkey and an angel in my path if I miss the point. I want to be in God's will, and I know you guys do as well. That's all I want. I want what He wants. I want what He's doing. And whatever that is okay, right? Even when it seems like it's part of the lunatic fringe for your particular life, or us as an entire church here. So, anyway, no one asked me my favorite color or anything like that. That's really kind of weird.
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is the one I'm enjoying at that particular time. And I mean that because it changes.
You like blue?
I didn't even plan on this. I just pulled stuff out of the laundry basket, really. No, this was folded. My lovely wife folded it, that's right. My door is that as I go to the dryer.
Careful.
Well, no, I'm the one that doesn't fold the laundry when I'm doing it. It should be me that carries it on through. So we'll be open to marriage counseling after the service. So I do miss you guys when I'm not here. I understand that we found a very natural-born speaker, given the gift by God.
And it looks good on YouTube.
And I have a question for you with regards to that. A little late. Sorry. I wouldn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's happened before. It does happen from time to time. So, the devil didn't make me do it. He didn't make me do anything. The devil hasn't made you do anything. The devil hasn't made anybody do anything. He doesn't have that power. He's powerless. He cannot override free will. The devil can't make you do it. The raw truth is this, and sometimes it's unsettling when I have to come to terms with it. Dale chose it. Ouch! Or sometimes when it goes well, woohoo, thank you, Lord, for giving me the strength to choose wisely. One of the things that I walked away from discussions with the Be Bold ministry guys, when I went away and I took too long getting tarps, it wasn't because I was trying not to clean the camp, it was because I was having a really amazing conversation with Gary at the gate. And then I had to go get the tarps and stuff and come back. But I was having so much fun talking about how so often within religious circles and so forth, there's a perpetuation of victimhood. Where from now until the end of time, we get in little circles, and even though we stop doing something, whatever that is, we get together and say, hi, I'm Dale, I'm an alcoholic that has not participated for 30 years. That's a lie. You are not an alcoholic. Either God is powerful enough to help you overcome and you be recreated into something new, or He's a farce and He's not God. Right? He is the victor. He is victorious. He came and overcame all of what the enemy of God Himself did. It doesn't mean we won't make mistakes. It doesn't mean we won't mess up. It doesn't mean that at all. But to get together and overly, again and again and again, say, hi, I'm Dale, I'm a sinner. What does that reinforce? It reinforces the negative thing. It reinforces the thing that the enemy wants me. In other words, I'm saying, I'm on the enemy's team. Woo! I'm a child of God. God is my dad. Jesus is my brother.
Hallelujah.
The Holy Spirit is my very life and my being. That's why I live. Why would I get in little circles and portray my negative things again and again and again and again? Why would we think that was beneficial? We are more than conquerors, my friends. You didn't just barely get by. That you exceedingly were victorious. Right? In whatever that is. I'm tired of talking about what I'm doing, or she's doing, or he's doing, or they're doing, or what that group is doing, or whatever, and we do this a lot. I want to know, what is God doing? What do you see God doing?
Stuff.
What have you been joining God in that He was doing?
Stuff.
Stuff? Stuff. God is doing
God's
stuff.
been drawing people to.
Tara.
I can tell you why we thought it was a good idea to get in a group of people and say that aren't the negative things, because somewhere along the way we were taught that if we dump our garbage in the middle of a room, somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah, that's true. Right. And there's only one that's the ultimate garbage collector.
Absolutely.
And he puts it in the bottom of the sea and he goes, I don't know where it is, it's gone. Stop trying to remind me about that garbage. I've done away with it. It's gone, it's buried. It's no more. Awesome. Thanks, Tara. I just found out that Tara's going to go be a part of a workshop to talk about these kinds of things at a church. Woohoo! Which is kind of exciting. So, yeah. Nick's going to come along too.
We're a team.
Yeah. So that's some of the stuff I know of what God is doing. How do we get there from what color do I like?
Because you said nobody asked me what color you like.
Right. Okay. But I like black and purple too. Especially with the felt with the black light, you know, with the lights all turned off, those old Felton posters. Aren't those awesome? My word, those are cool. The ones that you used to color in yourself, even better because you personalized it. Right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Their dogs play poker.
Yes. There you go. Awesome. Well, what made me make my first statement about the devil didn't make me do it was I was thinking about the story of Judas. So Judas had the perfect friend. I would say that if you, well, which is true, you do have Jesus. You're hanging out with him. He's perfect in every way. He wouldn't intentionally harm. He wouldn't intentionally do anything that would be bad for you. He would do everything he could, and is, for us, to encourage and lift up and to inspire growth and to portray positive things, good things, for everyone that is encountered by him. And Judas was spending all this time with him. And since he was the guy that took care of the money, he got to see the reality of what occurred without money. And that God was not limited by that. And so he got to see all of these amazing things where a whole city-sized group of people got food from a little basket from a young man, child. I'm guessing it was like home on the range where never was heard a discouraging word, right? Rather than seldom. And I don't know that they have deer and antelope in Israel. But if they were there, I'm sure they were playing happily when Christ was in the area. Perfect pastor. You see that Christ had the pastoral gift. He would even give counsel and understanding before the person even spoke what was on their heart. He was the perfect healer, and he was just perfect in every way to be around him and to have that person in your corner. And to do what Judas did is strange to me. And so that tells me that even in our environment, we can have the best possible environment in our family or in our church or whatever it is. And we need to know that every decision each of us makes is just that. It's our decision. I'm convinced that when we start owning that, when we start taking that to heart, that we say the results that I'm getting are affected by the decision that I've made. What am I basing my decisions upon? My negative self-view, my negative view of others, my negative view of the church, and yes, I'm being a hypocrite as I say this. Don't want to be, but I get caught up in this too. Or am I making all my decisions based upon my perfect brother who happens to be seated figuratively in heaven at the right hand of God? Go for it, brother. What am I basing my decisions on?
Possible feelings?
Yeah. What went wrong with Judas? I mean, we can all have an opinion about that. We can all, and maybe all of us will be maybe partially right, or maybe we will be fully right, or whatever, but in John chapter 13, I just want to look at this scene here that's going on and go, how in the world does this occur? This would be like going, go ahead, my brother.
If I may
Yeah.
inject,
Yeah.
I believe that Judas may be in heaven
Yeah, I agree.
because he was fulfilling God's will. If he had not acted when he did
Yeah.
and do what he did, Christ would have never made it to the cross and shed his glorious blood for our salvation.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's good. And the rest of the story says he went with remorse and he cast his money,
Yeah.
saying this is meaningless, right? And we don't know what occurred internally or his communication with God and all that. So we don't ever get to make that judgment call about somebody's eternity.
It's like everyone has to be a bad guy to be in God's grace.
We do spend some time like that, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. You guys remember my childhood nickname? Devil Dale. Right?
No.
Yeah. I probably earned it. I'm going to use the word probably. In John chapter 13, Passover celebration, what do you think that's all about? Like, imagine this, that if you think about what the Passover celebration was, it was about freedom. This would be like our Independence Day. This is like the ultimate Independence Day. That you've been in this place of bondage and God is delivering you. And in the process, because of what God did, your firstborn is spared. It's going to be some celebration. Perpetually, all the way down through the ages, with understanding that. That God spared your son's life and that it preceded the great exodus into freedom. So all the way down through the years comes Christ, the ultimate fulfillment of that. And they're having the Passover celebration. And Jesus has decided, well, he didn't decide, he comes into the knowing that his hour was now at hand. It was time. It was time for him to be the fulfillment. The strange thing about that, the fulfillment of his own prophecies. Amazing. I don't get it. I don't fully understand it. He'd come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. I want you to hear something clear. When you are at your very worst, God loves you.
Amen.
Don't ever listen to the lie that you've fallen out of God's love. Don't let that play in your head. Don't let someone else tell you that. Don't let it impede you. Don't let it stop you from being in his presence. That's why it's expressed so much in the Bible. He loved them clear up to this point, even to the end. And guess what? With God, there is no end. So if he's going to love you till the end, he's going to love you perpetually to the point where there is no end. He is the I am. He is that he is. He is existence. He does not exist. He is the essence of existence.
We got something.
To exist, you had to come into being and have a beginning. He has not experienced that. Can't explain it beyond that. I'm sorry. You're going to have to find Einstein or something like that to help you out because I'm not qualified. Beyond my pay grade, I don't get it. All I can do is tell you about it. Yeah. And it's fun to explore it, isn't it? It's a trip. It's an amazing trip. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas. The devil didn't make Judas. He prompted him. Have you ever been fully aware of that you're being tempted? And you acknowledge it? That sucks. Isn't it awful?
Totally.
Still go down the path.
That's the worst part, is when you know this is what's occurring and you just keep going a little closer his way and he's like, and you're getting a little further and a little further until pretty soon you're like, pretty sure that wasn't me. Right?
I don't know about you, but when that starts happening, this feeling of, I really don't care, comes over me as well.
On that note, I want to share with you something that I think is implied in this story also. Apathy will never come from God. Apathy is the lack of existing care. You don't care. It doesn't matter to you. God always cares. God is not the one that brings apathy or gives it to you. That's a different place. So imagine you're sitting here. Jesus is at this place, the ultimate expression of Passover. And the devil is going to town. Just like my brother back here said, that a fulfilled prophecy. The devil prompted him, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. I want to go to Luke. Other direction. Luke chapter 22. Luke chapter 22. There's a little more explanation here in verse 3. It says, then Satan entered into Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12 disciples, and he went to the leading priests and captains of the temple guard to discuss the best way to betray Jesus. So it wasn't just, oh, I'm just going to do it. There was actually a committee meeting. They had a committee meeting. An elders meeting.
There you go.
Bill, wow. I think I've been to some of those. Not here. Wow. And he went to the leading priests and captains of the temple guard. He was going to get a hold of people that were influential and had some sway and the ability to make things happen. They were looking for the best way to betray Jesus. Can you imagine that conversation? Just think about that. That would be like, I consider Ted to be someone that's close to me, right? We don't sit and read books together, by the warmth of a fire or anything like that, right? We do share ice cream together once in a while. But I would consider Ted someone close to me. You know how weird that would be for me to go, hey Josh. Amen. I got something we need to talk about. Right? Can I meet you after church? Yeah. This guy Ted, he's all about the power now. He wants to limit you. And I don't think that's okay. So I want you to talk to I think he might see that too. I know I've seen him look at your dad with a way of authority. I don't think that's okay. So if you didn't get your dad, you know, and the three of us, and I don't know. In fact, Alan Henry's completely checked out because he feels so powerless now. So I think Alan Henry would, yeah, we gotta go talk. This guy's a problem. He needs to be locked up or hung on a tree or something. Can you even imagine? That's crazy to think about. And that's just with Vacation Ted. Imagine Jesus himself. It's a bizarre thing. The Bible doesn't say the devil made him do it. It says he prompted it. To watch those head elders, they might take over the lead job at the church, man. You know, they often lead the pastoral search committee. It's just so weird how when we get caught up in those kinds of things, how quickly things unravel. They were delighted, it says. They went to the temple. The place where you were going to give sacrifice to express the meaning of Passover. To carry out the actual expression of this Jesus and his ministry. They go into that place to have this discussion. Temple guards. They were delighted and they promised to give him money. It doesn't say he asked for money, it says they promised to give him money. I'm not sure how it went. He may have asked and then they promised. I don't know. I'm just reading it how it says it here. So he agreed and began looking for an opportunity to catch Ted eating an ice cream cone when he was least expecting it. They wanted an opportunity where they could have him arrested when the crowds weren't around. Why do you think that was? What did the crowds think of Jesus? They had been fed by him. They had been healed by him. They had been touched by him. They had experienced something they'd never experienced before. So this had to occur in an area where there wasn't many people and under the cover of nighttime. And Jesus himself just said, whatever it is that you came to do it quickly. Because my ice cream cone is melting. Sorry, Ted. God has never made me do a thing. The devil has never made me do a thing. I have always chosen what I've done. It's really important for us to grasp that. Yeah.
I can imagine that God coming and I'm on the toilet.
Really? Wow. That's well, you know, what was that? He loves you irregardless of anything, Josh. It doesn't matter. Even that. I haven't read that verse in the Bible yet, but I'm sure it would be there if we were living back in that time and we were telling the story about what occurred here today. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. Right?
So what did he say?
You want to share it?
I said, I imagined in my mind that God told me when I'm on the toilet.
Right? So tell me you haven't thought that. there's human activities and things that we are a part of, and it doesn't really matter at what point God comes and enters into our environment, right? God is love, and He loves us in every part of our environment. Always.
Gosh, don't feel bad. When the realization hit me that God was with me wherever I go, and I imagine being in the shower, watching me take a shower, it was like, oh my God.
Let's go to James. Have you guys heard that I like James? Go to James. Once or twice you heard about it? James chapter 1. So, James chapter 1 talks about this in starting in chapter 1 verse 12. James chapter 1 and verse 12. It says, God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. Why do you have to put the patiently part in? Like, I might be able to endure, but I'm not feeling very patient.
Then you won't
That's a
learn.
hard one.
We have to be patient in order to learn.
Yeah.
We have to have a certain amount of calmness in order to get the message.
That's right.
And if I'm impatient, then I'm close.
It's true. Yeah, chill out.
There you go.
Chill out and endure.
There you go.
But he says, be patient during the testing and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love Him. The temptation isn't the problem. There's an incredible thing beyond it. Why focus on the temptation? Why not focus upon the victorious one, Jesus Christ? So it goes on in the next verse. It says, and remember, this is like the infomercial, but wait, there's more. It's the end, remember. The Bible's filled with that, right? Not quite done with this teaching yet. There's another thing. Simona thinks that my teaching never stops having another thing, but it's probably true. And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and He never tempts us anyway. So while you say that Jesus was tempted, remember, Jesus came in the form of humanity so that He could relate to us. It says God is not tempted. Temptation comes from our own desires. Oh my word, now we're talking about personal choice again. Now we're talking about owning stuff, about taking personal responsibility.
Temptation's everywhere.
That can become a disaster.
Yeah. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. So there's a thing that occurs. Some people don't like James because James is comes off very rigid. If this, then that, and if that, then this, and here we go, ta-da. Oh, I have to own that? The problem is that we get caught into thinking only about our problems and our frailty and our mistakes. This is why it's so important that at the heart of everything, we are to be the people that are for the good news of Jesus Christ, rather than being against the enemy. Right? I received an email on the minister's page, and it was talking about maybe the people that are within churches and denominations that get led away on these weird little tangent things, these following after wolves that climbed over the gate. You know, Jesus talks about that. The shepherd comes through the door. But the wolves come over the top and sneak in from behind or whatever, and they have this weird idea and that weird idea. Imagine the followers of Judas, that would be a weird idea. Let's go and trap, right, the sacrificial lamb, literally, for humanity. And so there was all this talk about inoculating the members. I'm just giving you a little inside scoop within the theological world. Let's inoculate the members by giving them a little dose of the evil. And then, while they're feeling a little bit sick from that, let's then help them through that so that they'll be immune to it. I'm not even sure about the biological form of that yet. Not alone the spiritual part of that. I don't know. It's probably beyond my pay grade once again. And so then the voice of reason started coming, and it was so amazing because it had been going dark, and everyone was talking about this group and those evil people and that evil person and that evil theory and all of that, and it kept going more and more and more, focusing on that and why we should be against this and why we should be against that, and it was just all, it turned into this horrible thread. And then somebody goes, aren't we called to be for God rather than against the enemy?
Yes.
Huh. There's an idea. Just that comment started talking about the power of God, started talking about what God was doing. You can look at the thread and you can see the change in people's minds and the way they were communicating. The very people that were getting negative and dark and angry, and you could almost feel the vileness of it. Theologians and pastors and church leaders and so forth. And as soon as it was, aren't we for Christ? Right? And how soon we get trapped in that, any of us, all of us, me included, into going, well, I don't like that, I'm against that. But if you're for the victorious one, the key word is victorious. He is victorious. Therefore, he's rendered you victorious. Man, Dimitri, our minds are powerful. Yeah. But it all begins there and it gives birth there. One last verse and then we'll close. We're not going to sing after, so I can get an extra minute or two, right? James chapter 4. Let's start in verse 5. This is a passage that I've gone to on many occasions in ministry when trying to help somebody through a difficult time. And a lot of people get hung up on the S word and the H word. Okay, I'm going to say it. Submit. No, you didn't say that. And then the H word, humble.
I was totally
Oh,
Oh, you're tricky.
really? Verse 5, do you think the scriptures have no meaning? They say that God is passionate, that the Spirit He has placed within us should be faithful to Him. And He gives grace generously, as the scriptures say. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So, humble yourself. Some of the older versions say submit. Humble yourselves before God. You're not resisting the devil by humbling yourself to God. That is resisting the devil, because humbling God, who are you focused on? Humbling yourself before God. Are you thinking about, oh, I'm going to take out the devil? If I'm like, I'm taking down the devil, is that a humble stance, first of all?
No.
And And if I'm humbling myself before God, how could I be before God humbling myself before Him if I'm focused on the devil?
Right. Amen. Right.
Guys, stop looking for the devil.
Amen. Amen.
Stop talking about what he's doing in your life.
You don't have to look for him, he's right there.
Amen.
Let's stop talking about what he's doing in other lives.
Oh, we just completely remove it from our vocabulary.
I like that.
Yeah.
The problem is he'll use that against us probably too, but I like that because as far as I'm concerned, there's Jesus,
Amen.
right?
If
Yeah,
the
Tara.
devil- If the devil doesn't believe in my glory, then why should I believe in his?
I like that. That's good. Because your glory isn't yours, it's God's, so he doesn't like it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're God's glory.
Absolutely.
Jesus said that when he was praying in the garden. He said, "These are those that bring me glory." And he was thinking about Tara.
He is glorified by my
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So awesome. It's just a thought process away from a better experience. That's what I'm trying to say today. We're just a thought process away from a completely different type of life. Yeah.
Will you give us some examples? Say, so for instance, I get a fine for something that I believe is unfair. How do I turn that into glory to God, humble myself instead of blaming that person or the authority?
So, I mean, I guess the thing in that is something's unfair, I perceive it to be unfair. If I focus on that, I've decided I'm a victim, not a victor.
There you go. There you go.
Going back to your,
And
There you
so,
go. Amen.
yeah.
Going back to James, he says in the translation I memorized it in, is count it all joy when you experience trials because they develop patience and endurance. The trials that I experience are joyful. I don't go around jumping around saying, Yahoo, I'm having a trial.
Someone have a camera, we're gonna follow you till that happens.
But the thing is I'll talk to God and I'll say, God, I'm not feeling joyful, but you say to count it all joy. So you're doing something positive in this experience.
Another one of the ways I think that helps us, and I was talking to Belita about this a little earlier, talking about when people ask us to go give a workshop or tell them about what this is and how to interact with people that we don't know or that come from different backgrounds or whatever. And one of the traps is to go in and talk about what we're doing, what I'm doing, what our church is doing. Instead, the focus needs to be, this is what God is doing, this is what God has done, this is where God is leading. Look at what He's doing.
Through me, through us.
Right. He asked us to join it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost it. Oh, I've been listening to a message that says to bless the things that are standing in front of us that seem to impede us. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, so the thing is in the Hebrew, often the same word means blessing or curse. It's how you decide to perceive it.
There you go. Amen.
How do you want to accept that into your life?
Amen.
Is a negative thing a blessing or a curse? It's all in what you've decided to do. So I would say that getting a tooth pulled would be painful and it would be a curse, but really Sean's blessing me. Right? Yes.
Amen.
Bill.
In some languages, there's no difference between the word crisis and opportunity.
Oh, good. Did you guys hear that? In some languages, there's no difference in the meaning of the same word, or there is two meanings to the same word. One meaning crisis and the other meaning opportunity. That's really good.
Awesome. Yes, yes.
Changing how we think
That's it.
is so powerful. So incredibly different.
Even the Bible warns you, be careful how you think. Come on.
And it says that He will renew your mind, but it's up to you to make the choices of what you do with it.
Amen. Amen.
You are given free will. Would you trade it in? How much would you charge for someone to take your free will from you? then why would we blame God or the devil at having done that if we don't want that ever to occur? You have the free will to choose, therefore you get to have the experience of consequences of your choices. And mercy is when God says, I'm going to intervene between you and the consequence. Isn't it awesome?
Sometimes when we ask God to remove us from a situation, sometimes He has put us in that situation to teach us something,
Yeah.
and we have to accept it. If we are going to grow, if we're going to submit ourselves to Him totally, we have to accept what He puts in front of us.
Yeah.
And as Leah said, count it as all joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Woo-hoo!
Exactly. So,
Peter expanded on that idea too in 1 Peter, where he says that the trials reveal where our faith is.
yeah.
Yep, yep, amen, amen. Oh, sorry.
So I'm convinced of this. I'm convinced of this, that God's not so concerned about what I would measure as what we call successful. He's more interested in being faithful. And I think that's another one of those things that goes along with this idea about free will and all of that. That often the idea of success gets measured and therefore pride gets involved in the measurements. Faithfulness is just saying, God, I think I understand what you're doing. I'm going to be faithful to what I think I'm understanding you're doing. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go out on that ledge with you. I don't know what it means. I don't have all the answers. And I may, in the human realm, look like a complete failure. Think of some of the people that stood out there on the platform of scrutiny in the Bible for all of the people to see, and they rendered, in human terms, looked like complete failures.
Because they chose the other line. They walked the line, they chose the other line instead of walk the line.
That's right.
They went to walk the line, they wrapped the line till the song blew up.
Yeah. And those same characters are found in the Hall of Faith, Hebrews 11, because they were found faithful. Not successful by human terms, but faithful in God's terms. I just want to be faithful.
I do that, I hate that song.
What does success mean in this world anyway? Yeah, who gets to make the terms of it? It's always changing, isn't it?
You have all the money in the world.
Yeah.
If you die, that's all it is.
Doesn't matter. Matter at all. The rest of this verse I started, and then we're gonna talk to God for a second. Then you guys get to go do whatever you decide you're gonna do because it's your decision. Right? Yeah.
Let's go
Come
make
on.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Woo!
So the rest of the verse, after the H word, the humble yourself, or the S word, if that's in your Bible. After you've placed yourself in God's hands, in so doing you've resisted the devil, and it says he'll flee from you. And the reason why I think he flees from you is not that he's going, oh my word, I'm giving up. It's because as far as he's concerned, you're not looking at him, so he's not even on your radar.
Yep.
It's as though he ran away because you're looking at Christ.
Yep. Yep.
He's
Amen.
nothing to you.
Amen.
Stop making him something to yourself.
Amen.
Make him nothing to you. Because that's what he is. God is something to us. Could we endeavor as us, hold each other accountable to be what we're for rather than that which we're against? Is that a worthy commitment? I think so. God, thank you so much for today. It's kind of fun being a guest speaker. I want to thank you for that. With all the brothers and sisters here, it's exciting to see what you're doing. And our focus is sometimes challenged, and that you won't make us do anything, but you've given us principles and promises and empowerment. You've given us your Spirit in us. You've given us everything we need to live as victors, victorious in you. So God, just keep reminding us of that and use us to remind each other. And that you will continue that renewing, the recreating, the transforming of our minds and our very being, so that we'll see you and others differently. We thank you, God. Amen. All right.
Gail,
Yeah.
can you announce root beer flow in about 10 minutes?
Oh, man. If you guys didn't